folks, and welcome to another episode of the AHG's YouTube series. In today's episode, I'll be talking about how to stock a traditional herbal kitchen with various Middle Eastern and East Indian influences. Well, I guess since all the spices come from India, we could just say like Indian influence per se. Myself being Middle Eastern, not so much native to a lot of the spices that I'm talking about, but I'll learn to use them over time and I hope to introduce you to them. So without further ado, we'll start with, and I've just kind of picked a list of a few which I find should be critical in one's kitchen. First one, which most of us are familiar with, is cumin seed. Cumin seed being a nice carminative, digestive herb, really useful as a mild stimulant. It's got mild aphrodisiac properties. It's actually quite nutritionally dense as well. It's very well noted in calcium, magnesium, iron as well. So keep that in mind when considering cumin seed. Another one we're looking at, let's see here in the list, is coriander, also known as cilantro in the United States. I'm just going to bring it out here. Coriander, again, is the seed of the plant when it bolts. And powdered, it's essentially the coriander powder that many of us are familiar with. Coriander is a really nice, cooling, bloating, kind of digestive tonic, same kind of thing. It's got like a nice spasmodic theme to it, or antispasmodic theme, so think about that when you consider coriander. It has been useful for essentially stimulating appetite or gastric secretions. There's been in Iran, I believe, there's a drug that has been, they've synthesized a drug through some sort of coriander extract for that purpose. Next one I'll talk about it in two parts, is your turmeric, or in Sanskrit known as haldi. Very, very useful anti-inflammatory herb, nice bitter herb. It's very interesting because we're looking at the curcumin content of it, right? And the curcumin content is what gives it most of the noted anti-inflammatory effects that we're looking for. It also has got different antimicrobial effects and what have you. But if you can, especially in the States, which I'm assuming most of you folks are that are watching this video, try to find the red Hawaiian turmeric, which has been noted to have about 19% curcuminoid content as opposed to 3.5% of the yellow stuff. So where possible, find the red turmeric. Next herb we'll be talking about the traditional black pepper. And black pepper, of course, something we all have. Why would you use it? Pungent, helps increase digestive power, anti-inflammatory effects, anodyne effects, anti-cancer, anti-tumor, essentially. Black pepper is also got the piperine component to it, which is very useful for helping you absorb other constituents from plants. Like, for example, the turmeric that we just mentioned. Traditionally, turmeric, which you must keep in mind, must be activated with heat and oil for it to be very effective. That's why in India, you kind of see them when they start with their curries, they'll put the turmeric with the onions and the oil just to kind of heat activate it. Black pepper would be a good step to put in there. The piperine portion of it would enhance the bioavailability of the curcuminoid, essentially. Really useful, again, the black pepper for cholesterol as well as weight loss. Which brings me to my next pungent herb, mustard seed, which Canada is the world's top producer of. And you can get it in black, or you can get it in the hotter yellow stuff. I tend to use the black just because I'm a bit more fiery myself. Really useful digestive tonic, anti-inflammatory effects, heating effects, and very rich in magnesium, calcium, iron, and selenium. It's a really nice nutritive powerhouse. One of the other herbs I should mention as well, not so common in North America, asafoetida, or better known as devil's dung. And this is compounded in particular, I think, with fennel powder and a little bit of wheat powder just to make it more digestible, but it comes in a really hard resin. It smells very strong. It's got a very, very potent oniony / garlic flavor, which is used, and it's used heavily by like the Jain religion in India, where they essentially focus on spiritually uplifting sattvic foods. So onions and garlic and what have you are not utilized, so they use a lot of that stuff. Very nice to throw into foods. But medicinally, we're talking about really potent antispasmodic. Like, it's one of the strongest ones we have. Digestive, carminative properties. And in addition to its resin content, really lends it to give a nice heating, expectorating component to it. Very useful for asthma as well, that herb, I should mention. Another herb we should, and asafoetida, by the way, classically was also used for, worms and what have you, or pesticides. Next one I'll be talking about is fennel. Fennel seed, lovely cooling herb. Probably the best bloating, digestive tonic we know, and you can just kind of chew the seed directly or have it in a tincture or tea for that purpose. Very useful, and also antimicrobial, very useful for staph infections and what have you. Or not so much staph actually, but gram-positive bacteria. And the next herb we'll be talking about on the list is fenugreek seeds. Fenugreek seeds are amazing. If you actually eat a lot of them, your sweat smells like maple syrup, which is very interesting. You can consume this don't put too much of it in your cooking, and it'll actually make things very bitter, but a good way to have the medicinal benefits of it is to take like a teaspoon of it, soak it in like a glass of water, and then consume that in the morning. The seeds will become soft, to which you can actually chew or rub into your scalp for hair loss or what have you. Nice and phytoestrogenic, demulcent to the intestinal tract. Very useful for blood sugar regulation. Fenugreek, also useful for cholesterol balance, so keep that in mind. I really like using it, fenugreek seed, medicinally. It's again, too strong tasting for most folks. That's why some folks avoid it. And it's actually in the soy family, so keep that in mind. Next herb we'll be talking about is kokum. Really quickly, this is a rare one. Rare one because it's a dried wild jungle mangosteen used in South India. It's kind of like a tamarind substitute. It's nice and sour. It's the same family of it, like as the actual mangosteen itself, and it's been noted for its cancer-fighting properties. It's been used internally for like piles, dysentery, stuff like that. In addition to it having like the juice was also used topically for, I believe, insect bites or what have you, but obviously it's going to be difficult to find that here. Yeah, it's definitely something that's harder to find. If you have trouble, just shoot me a message. I'll see if I can find it for you. Next one on the list would be mace. Oh, here we go. So mace. It's essentially the coating of nutmeg. So like the nutmeg claw, if you will. Kind of like a milder nutmeg. It's got a mild analgesic, mild anxiety-reducing, nervine-like effect. Again, useful for bloating, gas, indigestion. The myristicine in particular, the constituent in it, has been noted and been studied in various colon cancer studies, so with great efficacy, so keep that in mind. And the next one on the list is, see if I can find it actually, black cardamom, which is right there. It's a bit messy here, folks. Black cardamom, similar to the green cardamom we're familiar with. I wanted to talk about this one though. Smokier, really useful for, well, you can chew it just to kind of get into like, for halitosis, bad breath, what have you. Also, again, like its green sister per se, it's also very useful for bloating, indigestion, for stomach acid level. It actually keeps it under control if it's a little bit too high. And very high in antioxidants, or not so much high in antioxidants, but increases your body's capability to, or glutathione levels naturally. And then obviously we have the traditional chili, if I can have here, show you an example of the arbol chili. What we know it for is obviously the anti-inflammatory effects, stimulant, pain relieving, cardiovascular tonic, especially with high blood pressure, it's very useful. And last but not least, we'll throw in another one of my favorites, star anise. One of the more useful ones to talk about in a pandemic. Antiviral, antimicrobial, carminative, diaphoretic, digestive. Really
really a powerhouse of an herb. There's been a lot of allopathic antiviral drugs that have been derived from aniseed, and it's something that's used traditionally in my part of the world.
So yeah, that's pretty much it for me. Hope you enjoyed. Peace.